Leo Bennett sat alone in the far corner of the academy cafeteria, pushing his food around his plate. The other students gave him plenty of space. Not because they disliked him but because he was human. One of only 3 humans at Galactic Academy Station Kepler 7, floating somewhere between the Orion Arm and the outer colonies. The 12-year-old boy had learned quickly that being different meant being lonely. The tall, blue-skinned Zen3 students towered over him in the hallways. The insectoid Clixians chittered in languages his translator could barely process. Even the friendly Vrexians, with their 4 arms and kind eyes, treated him like a fragile curiosity. His attention drifted to the massive windows overlooking the star field. Earth was so far away now. His parents had been so proud when he earned his scholarship to the academy. The most prestigious school in 3 sectors, they had said. An honor for humanity, they had called it. Leo had not told them how hard it was. How the other students stared. How the teachers sometimes forgot to adjust lessons for human physiology. How he missed his little sister and his dog and the smell of rain. A sharp beep from his data pad pulled him from his thoughts. Detention. Again. He had been late to advanced stellar mathematics that morning. Only by 5 minutes, but Instructor Krell did not accept excuses. The insectoid teacher had assigned him to waste processing duty for the evening. Leo sighed and dumped his half-eaten meal into the recycler. At least cleaning duty meant he could be alone for a while. The waste processing sector occupied the lowest level of the station, deep in the industrial heart where massive machines hummed and clanked. Few students ever came down here. The air smelled metallic and slightly sour. Dim blue emergency lights cast long shadows across the narrow corridors. Leo pulled on the thick rubber gloves and grabbed a scanning device. His job was simple. Walk the perimeter, scan for biological waste that the automated systems might have missed, and log anything unusual. It was boring work, but he did not mind. Down here, nobody stared at him. He had been working for nearly an hour when he heard it. A soft sound, almost like a hum, coming from behind one of the large waste processors. Leo stopped walking. The sound came again. Not mechanical. Something else. He squeezed between 2 massive machines, his small human frame able to fit where the larger alien students could not. The humming grew louder. And then he saw it. An egg. Roughly the size of a watermelon, nestled in a dark corner. Its shell was a deep midnight blue with silver veins running across the surface like lightning frozen in stone. But the shell was cracked in several places, and when Leo touched it carefully, it was cold. Too cold. His scanner beeped. The device identified it as biological material. Draconid in origin. Leo's breath caught in his throat. He knew that word. Everyone in the galaxy knew that word. Dragons. Well, not exactly dragons like in Earth's old stories. But close enough that humans had started calling them that when they first made contact. The Draconid species were massive, intelligent, and feared across every system. Natural predators. Apex hunters. Beings of fire and fury. And their eggs were supposed to be guarded fiercely. Draconid pairs bonded for life and defended their nests to the death. So why was this egg here? Alone? Hidden behind trash processors in the bowels of a school station? Leo ran his scanner again. The egg was viable. Life signs present but weak. Very weak. It was dying from the cold. He should report it. Call security. Let the adults handle it. That would be the smart thing to do. The safe thing. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the loneliness he felt every day. Maybe it was the sadness of seeing something so beautiful abandoned in such an ugly place. Maybe it was just the human instinct to help things that needed helping. Leo made his decision in seconds. He pulled off his academy jacket and wrapped it carefully around the egg. It was heavy, much heavier than it looked. He grunted as he lifted it, cradling it against his chest. Getting back to his dormitory unseen would be difficult. The station had security drones on every level. Cameras in most corridors. But Leo had learned the blind spots during his months here. The places where the cameras did not quite reach. The maintenance shafts that the drones did not patrol. He moved quickly through the lower levels, his heart pounding. The egg was so cold against his chest even through the jacket. How long had it been abandoned? Days. Weeks. A security drone floated past the end of one corridor. Leo pressed himself flat against the wall, holding his breath. The drone's sensors swept the area with soft blue light. It paused. Leo's heart nearly stopped. Then the drone moved on. It had registered the egg as biological waste, just like his scanner had. Nothing worth investigating. Leo exhaled slowly and kept moving. The dormitory wing was on level 7. Leo shared a small room with Grawl, a Vrexian student who mostly kept to himself. If Leo was lucky, Grawl would be at the study center or the recreation dome. He needed time alone to figure out what to do next. He pressed his palm to the door scanner. The lock chirped and released. Leo slipped inside and immediately locked the door behind him. Empty. Thank the stars. His bed was in the corner, a simple platform with standard issue sheets. Leo gently placed the egg on his bed and unwrapped his jacket. The shell was beautiful up close, even with its cracks. The silver veins seemed to pulse very faintly, like a slow heartbeat. He grabbed his data pad and pulled up the Academy's biology database. His fingers flew across the screen as he searched for information about draconid eggs. Temperature requirements. Must maintain constant warmth between 35 and 40 degrees Celsius. Humidity, 60% minimum. Incubation period, 90 to 120 days under optimal conditions. Leo felt his stomach drop. This egg was freezing. It had probably been in that cold corner for days at least. Maybe it was already too late. But he had to try. He grabbed every blanket he owned and created a nest on his bed. He carefully placed the egg in the center and wrapped it in layers of fabric. Then he pulled out his small portable heater, the one he used because the station was always too cold for human comfort. He set it to maximum and positioned it near the egg. As he worked, his mind raced. Why had the egg been abandoned? The database said draconid parents would die defending their nests. The only way an egg would be left alone was if both parents were dead. The thought made Leo's chest tight. This egg was an orphan. Just like he felt like an orphan sometimes, even though his parents were alive. Alone in a place that did not understand him. He sat on the floor next to his bed, watching the egg carefully. After a few minutes, he thought he saw one of the silver veins pulse a little brighter. Maybe it was his imagination. Maybe it was hope. The door suddenly hissed open. Leo jumped to his feet as Grawl entered the room. The Vrexian was tall and lean, with 4 arms and gray-scaled skin. His large eyes widened as he saw the nest of blankets on Leo's bed. "What are you doing?" Grawl asked in his clicking accent. Leo stepped in front of the bed, blocking the view. "Nothing. Just reorganizing my stuff." Grawl's head tilted. 2 of his arms crossed over his chest while the other 2 hung at his sides. "You are a terrible liar, Leo Bennett. What are you hiding?" There was no point in lying further. Grawl would find out eventually. Leo stepped aside with a sigh. Grawl approached the bed slowly. He pulled back 1 layer of blankets. His eyes grew even wider when he saw the egg. Is that a draconid egg?" "Yes," Leo said quietly. "Are you insane?" Grawl's voice rose an octave. "Do you know what will happen if security finds this? Draconids are restricted species on civilian stations. You will be expelled. Maybe even arrested." "I found it abandoned," Leo said firmly. "Left to die in the cold. I could not just leave it there." Grawl stared at him. All 4 arms now crossed over his chest. "This is not your responsibility, human. You should report it to the headmaster immediately." "And what would they do?" Leo challenged. "They would probably destroy it. Or lock it away in some lab." "I read the files, Grawl. Draconids bond with their parents from the moment they hatch. This egg has nobody. Just like..." He trailed off, but Grawl understood. The Vrexian's expression softened slightly. "Just like you feel," Grawl finished quietly. Leo nodded, not trusting his voice. Grawl was silent for a long moment, his large eyes studying the egg. Finally he sighed deeply. "If we are caught, I will say you forced me to help. I will deny everything." Leo felt hope spark in his chest. "Does that mean?" "It means I am probably as insane as you are," Grawl muttered. "But yes, I will help you hide it. For now." Leo smiled for the first time in days. He was not alone anymore. And neither was the egg. 3 days passed in nervous anticipation. Leo barely slept. Every few hours he would wake up and check the egg, making sure the heater was still running and the blankets were properly arranged. Grawl had helped him rig a moisture sensor to maintain the humidity level. They used damp towels and a small humidifier borrowed from the biology lab. The egg had changed. The cracks had grown wider, spider webbing across the beautiful blue shell. The silver veins pulsed more frequently now, glowing with a soft inner light. Leo could sometimes feel warmth radiating from inside. Something was alive in there. Something was growing stronger. On the morning of the 4th day, Leo was sitting in advanced stellar mathematics, trying to focus on orbital calculations. His mind kept drifting back to his room. What if the egg hatched while he was gone? What if something went wrong? His data pad buzzed softly. A message from Grawl: "Get back here. Now." Leo's hand shot up. "Instructor Krell, may I be excused?" Medical emergency. The insectoid teacher's antennae twitched with annoyance, but she waved a clawed hand dismissively. Leo grabbed his bag and ran. He reached his dormitory in record time, his human legs pumping as fast as they could. He burst through the door to find Grawl standing next to the bed, all four of his arms raised in a gesture of uncertainty. The egg was rocking, actually moving back and forth. Soft chirping sounds came from inside. "It started 5 minutes ago," Grawl whispered, as if speaking too loudly might disturb the process. Leo approached slowly, his heart hammering in his chest. He knelt beside the bed just as a piece of shell cracked and fell away. A small silver claw poked through the opening. For the next 20 minutes, both boys watched in silent awe as the hatchling worked its way out of the egg. It was exhausting work. The tiny creature would push and struggle, then rest, then push again. Leo's hands itched to help, but Grawl had researched this. The hatchling needed to break free on its own. It made them stronger. Finally, with a last determined shove, the shell split completely open. The creature that emerged was the most beautiful thing Leo had ever seen. She was tiny, barely the size of a house cat. Her scales were pure silver, catching the light and shimmering like liquid metal. Her eyes were molten gold, large and intelligent and already focused on the world around her. Small wings, translucent and delicate, were folded against her sides. A long tail wrapped around her body. The hatchling blinked up at Leo. Then she chirped, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Leo felt something shift in his chest. A warmth that had nothing to do with the heater. The hatchling took one wobbly step forward, then another, making her way across the bed directly toward him. "Careful," Grawl warned. "Draconid hatchlings can bite through steel." But the hatchling did not bite. She climbed onto Leo's outstretched hand and nuzzled against his palm. Her scales were warm and smooth. She chirped again, a sound of contentment. "I think she likes you," Grawl said, sounding amazed. Leo carefully brought his hand closer to his chest. The hatchling climbed up his arm and settled on his shoulder, curling her tail around the back of his neck. She pressed her small head against his cheek. "Hello there," Leo whispered. "Welcome to the universe." The hatchling's golden eyes closed halfway, and she made a soft rumbling sound. Almost like a purr. "You need to name her," Grawl said. Leo thought for a moment, looking at her silver scales. "Ash," he said finally. "Her name is Ash." As if understanding, the hatchling chirped and nuzzled closer. The first challenge came almost immediately. Ash was hungry. Very hungry. She made little squeaking sounds and nibbled at Leo's collar. "The database says hatchlings need protein," Grawl reported, scrolling through his data pad. "Fresh meat. Raw. About 1/2 kilogram per day at this size." "Where are we supposed to get fresh meat?" Leo asked. "The cafeteria only serves synthesized food." "The biology lab," Grawl suggested. "They keep specimens for dissection classes. But we would have to steal them." Leo looked down at Ash, who was now chewing on his finger with tiny, sharp teeth. It did not hurt, but he could feel the strength in her jaw. She needed food. "Then we steal them," he said. That night, while most students were in the recreation dome, Leo and Grawl made their way to the biology lab. Grawl used his security access to override the lock. Inside, they found refrigerated storage units filled with preserved specimens and, thankfully, some fresh protein samples meant for carnivorous species. They took enough for several days, carefully replacing the inventory logs to hide the theft. Back in the dormitory, Leo offered Ash a piece of raw meat. She snatched it from his hand eagerly and devoured it in seconds. Then she looked up at him expectantly, wanting more. Leo smiled and fed her piece after piece until she finally seemed satisfied. She climbed back onto his shoulder and curled up, falling asleep almost instantly. "She trusts you completely," Grawl observed. "I have never seen anything like it." "I found her," Leo said softly. "I kept her warm. Maybe she thinks I am her parent." "You essentially are," Grawl replied. "Draconid's imprint on whoever cares for them in the first hours after hatching. She will bond with you for life." Leo felt the weight of that responsibility. This creature would depend on him for everything. And he was just a 12-year-old human kid, far from home, barely able to take care of himself. But when Ash stirred in her sleep and made a soft, contented sound, Leo knew he would do whatever it took to protect her. The next problem was hiding her. Ash could not stay on Leo's shoulder all the time. Security inspections happened randomly. Drones patrolled the dormitory levels. If anyone discovered her, it would be over. Grawl came up with a solution. "Your locker," he said. "It is big enough and it has ventilation. We can line it with blankets and make it comfortable." They spent an afternoon modifying Leo's storage locker, creating a small nest inside. They added padding, a water dish, and a heating element. When they were finished, it looked like a cozy den. Ash, Leo called softly. The hatchling, who had been exploring the room, immediately turned and bounded toward him on all fours. She was already learning to respond to her name. Leo pointed to the locker. This is your safe place. When I say hide, you go in here. Understand? Ash tilted her head, her golden eyes studying him. Leo placed a piece of meat inside the locker. Hide, he commanded gently. Ash chirped and climbed into the locker, eating the treat. Leo praised her and gave her another piece. They practiced this dozens of times over the next 2 days. Hide. Go to the locker. Get a reward. Soon Ash understood the game. The real test came on the 3rd day when a security drone made an unexpected inspection of their room. Leo was studying at his desk when he heard the approach in the corridor. Ash, hide, he whispered urgently. The hatchling, who had been playing with a spare data cable, immediately scampered to the locker and climbed inside. Leo shut the door just as the security drone entered the room. The mechanical sphere floated through the space, its sensors sweeping everything. It paused near Leo's locker. Leo held his breath. Inside the locker, Ash remained completely silent. Not a chirp. Not a movement. As if she understood the danger. The drone completed its scan and exited. Leo waited until it was completely gone before opening the locker. Ash burst out and climbed up his leg onto his chest and nuzzled against his face. She had been scared, he could tell, but she had trusted him. Good girl, Leo whispered, hugging her gently. Such a good girl. Grawl, who had been frozen at his desk, exhaled loudly. That was too close. She understood, Leo said, marveling. She knew to stay quiet. Draconids are intelligent, Grawl reminded him. Some say more intelligent than most galactic species. She may only be days old, but her mind is already processing complex ideas. Over the following days, Ash proved just how intelligent she was. She learned to use a small litter box they set up. She understood when Leo needed to leave for classes and would wait patiently in her locker. She learned the difference between Grawl's footsteps and the footsteps of strangers. But she only truly trusted Leo. When Grawl tried to feed her, she would back away and hiss softly. When Leo fed her, she would eat from his hand and purr afterward. At night, Ash slept curled up on Leo's chest, her warm body rising and falling with each breath. Leo would lie awake, feeling her heartbeat, wondering what the future held. He knew this could not last forever. Ash was growing. Already she was noticeably bigger than when she first hatched. Soon she would be too large to hide in a locker. But for now, in these quiet moments, Leo allowed himself to feel something he had not felt since arriving at the academy. He felt like he belonged to someone. And someone belonged to him. 2 months changed everything. Ash was no longer the tiny hatchling that could curl up on Leo's shoulder. She was now the size of a large dog, her body lean and muscular. Her silver scales had darkened slightly, taking on hints of smoke and shadow. Her wings, once delicate and translucent, were now strong enough to carry her across the room in short gliding jumps. Her golden eyes had grown sharper, more aware. And hiding her had become nearly impossible. The locker trick no longer worked. Ash was simply too big. Leo and Grawl had resorted to more desperate measures. They hung blankets to divide their room, creating a hidden section where Ash could stay during the day. They stuffed towels under the door to block the gap. They ran white noise generators to mask any sounds she made. But it was not enough. Food had become the biggest problem. Ash now needed nearly 3 kilograms of protein every day. The biology lab thefts had become too frequent, too noticeable. Inventory controls had been tightened. Leo had started sneaking food from the cafeteria instead, hiding meat portions in his jacket and bag. Other students had begun to notice. Whispers followed Leo through the corridors. Why did the human always take extra food? Why did his room sometimes smell like animal musk? Why were there strange scratching sounds coming from inside? This cannot continue, Grawl said one evening, his forearms crossed in worry. Someone will discover her soon. And when they do, we will both be expelled. Leo was sitting on the floor with Ash's head in his lap. She had grown to enjoy these quiet moments, rumbling contentedly as he scratched behind her ear ridges. I know, he admitted. But what can I do? I cannot just abandon her. Maybe you should go to the headmaster, Grawl suggested. Explain the situation. Ask for help. They will take her away, Leo said firmly. Send her to some facility or research station. I will not let that happen. Ash lifted her head and chirped softly as if agreeing with him. Her intelligence had grown along with her body. She understood far more than any animal should. She recognized words, responded to commands, and sometimes Leo swore she understood entire conversations. The bond between them had deepened too. Leo could sense her moods now. When she was hungry, he felt a hollow ache. When she was content, warmth spread through his chest. When she was afraid, his heart would race. Grawl had researched this phenomenon. It is called the draconid bond, he explained. When a draconid imprints on someone, they form a mental and emotional connection. In some cases, bonded pairs can even share thoughts. Leo found it both wonderful and terrifying. He had never felt so connected to another living being. But the danger was growing every day. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Leo was walking through the mostly empty lower corridors, heading back to his dormitory after a history lecture. These older sections of the station saw less traffic, which was why Leo preferred them. He turned a corner and nearly collided with Scar. The Keltorian student was massive, easily twice Leo's height. His reptilian skin was dark green and covered in thick scales. His eyes were cold and yellow with vertical slits for pupils. He was known throughout the academy as a bully, someone who enjoyed intimidating smaller students. And Leo was very small compared to most species here. Well, Scar hissed, his forked tongue flicking out. The little human. All alone. Leo tried to step around him, but Scar moved to block his path. Two other Keltorian students emerged from a side corridor, flanking Leo. He was trapped. I have no trouble with you, Scar, Leo said, keeping his voice steady despite the fear creeping up his spine. But I have trouble with you, Scar replied. You have been stealing from the cafeteria. Taking extra food. I have seen you. I am just hungry, Leo lied. Humans need more calories than... Liar. Scar's hand shot out and grabbed Leo's bag, tearing it from his shoulder. He dumped the contents onto the floor. Books, data pads, and several wrapped packages of raw meat spilled out. Scar's eyes narrowed. What is a human doing with carnivore rations? You eat processed food like all the other weak species. Leo's heart pounded. It is for a project. Biology class. Another lie. Scar stepped closer, looming over Leo. I think you are hiding something, human. Something you should not have. Give me your access credits and maybe I will not report you. Leo's hands clenched into fists. He had very few credits. What little money his parents sent him was meant for supplies and emergency needs. No. Scar's hand lashed out, grabbing Leo by the front of his shirt and lifting him off the ground. Wrong answer, little human. That was when Leo felt it. A surge of anger that was not entirely his own. It came through the bond, hot and fierce and protective. Ash was coming. Put me down, Leo said, his voice suddenly calm. Scar laughed. Or what? You will cry for your... A low, rumbling growl echoed through the corridor. It was a sound that should not exist on a space station. A sound that spoke of ancient predators and primal danger. Scar froze. His two companions took a step back. From the shadows of a maintenance shaft, Ash emerged. She was magnificent and terrifying. Her silver scales caught the corridor lights, making her seem to glow. Her wings were partially spread, making her appear even larger than she was. Her lips were pulled back, revealing rows of sharp white teeth. Her golden eyes were locked on Scar with unmistakable intent. Protect Leo. What is that thing? One of Scar's friends stammered. Scar dropped Leo immediately and backed away. A draconid? That is impossible. They are banned from civilian stations. Ash took a step forward, her claws clicking on the metal floor. The growl deepened, vibrating through the air. She positioned herself between Leo and the three Keltorians, her body low and ready to strike. Leo got to his feet slowly. Ash, stand down, he said quietly. The dragon did not move. She was waiting to see what the threats would do. Scar's bravado had completely evaporated. Draconids were apex predators. Even a young one like Ash could tear through Keltorian scales like paper. Keep that monster away from me. Leave, Leo said simply. Now. And do not bother me again. Scar and his friends did not need to be told twice. They turned and ran, their footsteps echoing through the corridor until they faded completely. Only when they were gone did Ash relax. She turned to Leo and nuzzled against his chest, making soft worried sounds. He wrapped his arms around her neck. I am okay, he whispered. You saved me. But even as he said it, Leo knew what this meant. Scar had seen Ash. Word would spread. The entire station would know within hours. He was right. By evening, the rumors had exploded across the academy. Students whispered in the cafeteria about the humans monster. Some said it was a vicious beast he had smuggled aboard. Others claimed it was a demon he had summoned from Earth's mythologies. A few insisted it was a genetic experiment gone wrong. Leo's data pad buzzed constantly with messages. Some students were curious. Others were afraid. Many were angry that he had endangered the station by harboring a dangerous creature. Grawl returned to their room looking panicked. "Security is searching the dormitory levels," he said, all four arms gesturing frantically. "They are using thermal scanners. They will find her within the hour." Leo looked at Ash, who was curled up in the corner, sensing the tension in the room. She had grown so much, but she was still just a child. Still innocent. Still trusting him to keep her safe. "We need to move her," Leo said. "Somewhere security will not look." "Where?" Grawl demanded. "The entire station is monitored." Leo's mind raced. Then he remembered. The observation deck on level 12. It has been closed for repairs for weeks. No one goes there. "That is on the other side of the station," Grawl protested. "How will you get her there without being seen?" "The maintenance shafts," Leo said. "They run through the whole station. Ash can fit and I can guide her." It was risky. Incredibly risky. But it was the only chance they had. Leo knelt beside Ash and looked into her golden eyes. "I need you to trust me. One more time." The dragon chirped softly and pressed her forehead against his. Together, they disappeared into the maintenance shaft, just as the sound of security boots echoed in the corridor outside. Leo did not make it to the observation deck. Security drones found him 3 corridors away from his dormitory, emerging from a maintenance shaft with Ash at his side. The dragon had been too large to move quickly through the narrow passages. They had been slow. Too slow. 6 drones surrounded them, their blue scanning lights creating a cage of illumination. Behind them, 2 security officers in full armor kept their weapons trained on Ash. Not lethal weapons, Leo noted with some relief. Stun batons and containment nets. "Do not move," one officer commanded. "Keep your hands visible." Leo raised his hands slowly. Beside him, Ash growled low in her throat, her body tense and ready to fight. He could feel her fear through their bond, mixed with determination to protect him. "Ash, no," Leo said firmly. "Stand down. It is over." The dragon looked at him with those intelligent golden eyes. For a moment, Leo thought she might disobey. Might attack the drones and officers and try to escape with him. But then she sat, her tail wrapping around her feet, her wings folding tight against her body. "Good girl," Leo whispered. The officers approached cautiously. One of them, a tall insectoid with clicking mandibles, studied Ash with professional assessment. Juvenile draconid. Approximately 2 months old. Remarkably well trained. "She is not dangerous," Leo said quickly. "She has never hurt anyone. She only protected me when—" "Silence," the officer interrupted. "You are in serious violation of station regulations. Unauthorized possession of a Class 5 restricted species. Theft of Academy resources. Endangering station personnel." The officer's translator gave each word a harsh, clipped tone. "You will both come with us." They were escorted through the corridors. Students pressed against the walls to watch as Leo walked past with Ash at his side, surrounded by security drones. Some students looked frightened. Others looked amazed. A few looked sympathetic. Grawl was waiting outside the dormitory, held by another security officer. When he saw Leo, relief flooded his features, quickly followed by worry. "I am sorry," Leo mouthed to his roommate. Grawl shook his head as if to say it was not Leo's fault. They were taken to the administrative level, to a section of the station Leo had never visited. The corridors here were wider, cleaner, decorated with art from 100 worlds. This was where the Academy leadership worked. The security detail stopped outside a large door made of polished dark wood, an expensive choice in a space station where most surfaces were metal or synthetic. One of the officers pressed the door chime. "Enter," came a voice from inside. "Female. Come." Authoritative. The door slid open. Leo was ushered inside, Ash staying close to his leg. The security officers remained outside, though the drones followed them in. The office was surprisingly comfortable. Real plants grew in planters along the walls, their leaves a dozen shades of green and blue. Windows showed the star field beyond the station. Behind a curved desk sat Headmaster Ven. Leo had seen the headmaster during Academy assemblies but never up close. She was Trilaxian, an insectoid species known for their wisdom and long lifespans. Her body was covered in a chitinous exoskeleton that shimmered with iridescent colors. 4 arms extended from her torso, 2 currently folded in her lap, two resting on the desk. Her eyes were compound, multifaceted, reflecting light like jewels. Delicate antennae rose from her head, twitching slightly as she observed them. "Sit, Leo Bennett," she said, gesturing to a chair with one of her hands. Leo sat. Ash immediately pressed against his legs, her head on his knee. He stroked her scales, trying to calm both of them. Headmaster Ven was silent for a long moment, studying them with those strange, beautiful eyes. Finally she spoke. "How long did you think you could hide her?" I do not know," Leo admitted. "I just knew I could not let her die." "Noble. Foolish. But noble." The headmaster's antennae tilted forward. "I have known about Ash for 4 weeks, Leo." Leo's head snapped up in shock. "What?" "Our thermal sensors detected an anomalous heat signature in your dormitory 17 days after you brought the egg to your room," Ven continued calmly. "I reviewed the security footage. I saw you find the egg. I watched you care for it. I observed the hatching through your room's monitoring systems." "You knew?" Leo felt betrayed, angry. "Why did you not stop me? Why did you let me?" "Because I wanted to see what you would do," Ven interrupted. "I wanted to see if you would abandon her when she became inconvenient, when she grew too large, when the risks became too great." She leaned forward slightly. "You did not." Leo did not know what to say. His mind was reeling. "Do you know why that egg was on this station, Leo?" He shook his head. Ven rose from her desk and walked to the window, her movements graceful despite her alien form. 2 months ago, a Draconid diplomatic vessel was traveling to the Andromeda summit. Aboard were Ambassador Thyrak and his bonded mate, Sarah. They were advocates for peace, working to reduce the fear and prejudice their species faces across the galaxy. She paused. They were also expecting a child. Leo's hand stilled on Ash's head. The dragon looked up at him, sensing his emotions shifting. "Extremists attacked their ship," Ven continued, her voice heavy with old sadness. "A group that believes Draconids are too dangerous to be allowed in civilized space. The ship was destroyed. Thyrak and Sarah were killed." She turned back to face Leo. "But before they died, Sarah used the last of the ship's power to launch one escape pod. Inside was their egg." "Ash," Leo whispered. "The pod's emergency beacon brought it here, to the nearest safe harbor. It crashed in our lower cargo holds. By the time my security team found it, the pod's life support had failed. The egg was freezing. We were waiting for a Draconid delegation to arrive and claim it, but there were political complications. Delays. Bureaucracy." Ven's antennae drooped slightly. "I am ashamed to say we placed the egg in a secure holding area and forgot about it in the chaos of running this academy." "Someone moved it," Leo said. "To the waste processing level." "A maintenance worker who did not understand what it was," Ven confirmed. "By the time we realized the error, the egg was gone. We assumed it had been destroyed in the recycling systems. We prepared to inform the Draconid government of our failure." She looked directly at Leo. "And then thermal scanners detected a live Draconid signature in a student dormitory." The pieces fell into place in Leo's mind. "You have been watching me. Testing me?" "Yes," Ven said simply. "The Draconid bond is sacred to their species. Once formed, it cannot be broken. If Ash bonded to you, truly bonded, then you became her family in the eyes of Draconid law. But I had to know if you were worthy, if you would protect her, nurture her, make sacrifices for her. And?" Leo's voice was barely a whisper. Ven returned to her desk and activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air. Leo and Ash sleeping together. Leo feeding Ash from his own hand. Leo teaching Ash to hide. Leo defending her against Scar. "You have demonstrated courage, compassion, and dedication beyond what I expected from a 12-year-old human," Ven said. "Ash is alive because of you. She is healthy, intelligent, and bonded. You have achieved something remarkable." Leo felt hope flare in his chest. "Does that mean, can I keep her?" Ven's expression was unreadable. "That is not my decision alone to make. A Draconid delegation will arrive tomorrow morning. They will assess the situation. They will determine Ash's fate." "What are the options?" Leo asked, though he dreaded the answer. "There are 2 possibilities," Ven said. "The first, they recognize your bond and grant you guardianship. You would become the first human Draconid bonded in galactic history. Ash would remain with you and you would be responsible for her for the rest of your life. This is a commitment that could span decades." "I accept," Leo said immediately. "I will do whatever it takes. The commitment includes your education being modified to include Draconid cultural studies and bonded pair protocols. You would have legal responsibilities. Ash would need to be registered, regulated, monitored. I do not care, Leo insisted. She is family. I will not abandon her. Ven's antennae tilted in what might have been approval. And the second possibility? Leo's jaw tightened. They take her away. They would take her to a draconid colony world, Ven explained. She would be raised by her own kind, taught their ways, given the life her parents would have wanted for her. She would be safe, protected, among her people. It was logical, reasonable, maybe even the right thing to do. But when Leo looked down at Ash, saw her golden eyes watching him with complete trust, felt the warmth of their bond in his chest, he knew he could not let her go. What do I have to do to convince them? Leo asked. Ven studied him for a long moment. Tomorrow you will face the delegation. You will answer their questions. You will demonstrate your bond. And you will prove beyond any doubt that you are worthy to be a draconid guardian. She dismissed him then, instructing the security drones to escort Leo and Ash to a secure holding room where they would spend the night. As they walked through the corridors, Ash pressed close to Leo's side. Through their bond, he felt her confusion and fear. She did not understand why they had been taken from their home. She only knew that Leo was with her, and that made her feel safe. I will not let them separate us, Leo whispered to her, his hand on her neck. I promise. The dragon chirped softly, trusting him completely. Leo only hoped he could keep that promise. The holding room had no windows. Just 4 metal walls, a bench, and a water dispenser. Leo sat on the cold floor with his back against the wall, Ash curled up beside him with her head in his lap. Neither of them had slept much. Morning came with a sharp knock on the door. A security officer entered, followed by Headmaster Ven. It is time, she said simply. They were escorted to the main assembly hall, a vast space normally used for academy ceremonies. But today it had been transformed. The seats were empty except for a few academy officials and security personnel. In the center of the room stood 3 draconids. Leo had never seen full-grown draconids before. They were massive. Each one stood at least 4 meters tall, their bodies covered in thick armored scales. Their wings were folded against their backs, but Leo could see they would span the width of the room if extended. Their eyes glowed with inner fire, intelligence and power radiating from every movement. The largest of the 3 stepped forward. His scales were deep crimson marked with black like cooling lava. Scars crossed his chest and arms, evidence of countless battles. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. I am Commander Tharn of the Draconid Defense Fleet, he announced. I come on behalf of the Draconid Council to assess this situation. The way he said situation made it clear he did not approve. Ash pressed against Leo's leg, making a small nervous sound. Leo placed a hand on her head, trying to appear calm even though his heart was racing. This is the human? Tharn asked Headmaster Ven, his tone dripping with skepticism. This is Leo Bennett, Ven confirmed. And this is Ash, daughter of Thyrak and Sarah. At the mention of her parents' names, the 3 draconids shifted. The female on the left, whose scales were deep blue, closed her eyes briefly in what might have been grief or respect. Tharn approached slowly, each footstep shaking the floor slightly. He stopped a few meters away and studied Leo with burning orange eyes. You are a child. Small. Weak. Human lifespans are barely a century. You cannot possibly understand what it means to bond with a draconid. I understand enough, Leo said, forcing his voice to stay steady. I understand that Ash needed someone when she hatched. I understand that she trusts me. And I understand that I will never abandon her, no matter what you decide. Tharn's eyes narrowed. Bold words. But words mean nothing. Draconids do not bond with those who simply speak well. We bond with those who prove their worth through action. Then test me, Leo said. A slight smile crossed Tharn's scaled face, revealing sharp teeth. Oh, I intend to. For the next 2 hours, Tharn put Leo through a series of trials. First, he demanded Leo demonstrate his knowledge of draconid culture and biology. Leo answered every question as best he could, drawing on everything he had researched over the past 2 months. Then Tharn tested the bond itself. He had Leo and Ash separated by a solid wall, unable to see or hear each other. If your bond is real, you will know what she feels. Tell me, is she calm or distressed? Leo closed his eyes and focused on the warm presence in his chest that was always there now, connecting him to Ash. He felt anxiety, confusion, a desire to find him. She is worried, Leo said. She does not understand why we are apart. She wants to be near me. Tharn gestured and the wall was removed. Ash immediately ran to Leo, chirping with relief and climbing halfway up his body to press her head against his chest. The blue-scaled female Draconid spoke for the first time. "The bond is genuine, Commander. I can sense it." "Perhaps," Tharn admitted grudgingly. "But genuine does not mean worthy. This human is too young, too inexperienced. Ash should be raised among our people, learning our ways. Not hidden on a human space station, fed scraps like a pet." "She is not a pet," Leo protested. "She is my family." "Family?" Tharn's laugh was harsh. "You have known her for 2 months, human. Draconid bonds last for lifetimes. What happens when you grow old and die in your pitiful few decades? What happens to Ash then?" Leo did not have an answer for that. The thought of leaving Ash alone had not occurred to him. The reality of his short human lifespan compared to hers crashed down on him. Before he could respond, an alarm screamed through the station. Red emergency lights flooded the assembly hall. A mechanical voice announced, "Security breach. Hull damage in sectors 7 and 9. All personnel report to emergency stations." "This is not a drill." Headmaster Ven's antennae shot straight up. "What is happening?" One of the security officers pressed a hand to his earpiece, listening. His face paled. "Pirates, Headmaster. 3 vessels. They breached the outer hull with plasma cutters. Boarding parties are entering the station." Tharn's wings snapped open, his warrior instincts immediately engaged. "How many?" "At least 20 hostiles. They are heading toward the residential sectors." Leo's blood turned cold. "The students?" "The dormitories are in the residential sectors." "Evacuate everyone to the safe rooms," Ven commanded. "Deploy all security forces." "Security is already engaged in sectors 7 and 9, the officer reported. "The residential areas have minimal protection." Tharn turned to the other 2 Draconids. "Mara. With me. We will eliminate these threats." He started toward the exit, then paused and looked back at Leo with contempt. "Stay here, human. Let the warriors handle this." But Leo was not listening. Through his bond with Ash, he could feel her agitation. She wanted to help. Needed to help. And so did he. "No," Leo said firmly. Tharn stopped. "What did you say?" "I said no." Leo looked up at the massive Draconid commander. "You want to see if I am worthy? If Ash and I can work together? Then let us prove it. There are students in danger. Children. Some of them are my friends." "You will only die," Tharn said flatly. "Maybe," Leo admitted. "But I would rather die protecting them than hide while others fight." For a long moment, Tharn stared at him. Then, unexpectedly, he nodded. "Very well. But stay out of my way." They moved as a group through the station corridors. Tharn and the other adult Draconids were devastating in combat. When they encountered the first group of pirates, armored mercenaries with plasma rifles, the Draconids tore through them like they were made of paper. Fire breath, razor claws, and sheer physical power made short work of the attackers. But more pirates kept coming. They had split up, moving through the station in multiple groups. Leo and Ash found themselves separated from the adult Draconids when a blast door sealed unexpectedly, dividing the corridor. On the other side they could hear weapons fire and screaming. "We need to find another route," Leo said to Ash. "Help me." The dragon's senses were sharper than his. She led him through maintenance passages and service corridors, following sounds and scents. They emerged in the recreational dome to find a group of students huddled in a corner, surrounded by 4 pirates. One pirate, a scarred Keltorian, was yelling at the students. "Tell us where the research vault is or we start shooting." Leo recognized some of those students. There was Grawl, his roommate, and Mira, a shy girl from his mathematics class, and others whose names he knew from passing in the halls. "Ash," Leo whispered. "We have to help them." The dragon growled low, understanding. They attacked from above. Ash had learned to glide short distances using her growing wings. She dropped from a maintenance platform directly onto one pirate, her weight and claws bearing him to the ground. Leo followed, landing and immediately grabbing a dropped stun baton. The fight was chaos. Leo was not a trained warrior, but he was quick and desperate. He dodged and struck where he could. Ash was a whirlwind of teeth and claws and fury, protecting both Leo and the students with fierce determination. One pirate aimed his rifle at Grawl. Leo threw himself forward, hitting the pirate's arm just as he fired. The shot went wide, scorching the wall. Ash pounced on the pirate a second later. Within minutes it was over. The 4 pirates were unconscious or fleeing. The students were safe. "Leo." Grawl rushed forward, all 4 arms reaching out. You saved us. But there was no time to celebrate. Through the walls, Leo heard more fighting. He and Ash ran toward the sound. They found Tharn in a corridor fighting off 6 pirates at once. The Draconid commander was wounded, a deep gash across his side leaking dark blood. He was still fighting but slower now, weakening. Behind him, the blue-scaled Draconid named Mara was down, unconscious or worse. Leo did not think. He just acted. He and Ash charged into the fight. Ash went for the pirates on Tharn's left while Leo grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and used it as a weapon, spraying foam into the pirates' faces and swinging the heavy canister at anyone who got close. Tharn, given a moment to breathe, rallied. Together with Leo and Ash, they drove the pirates back. Security forces arrived moments later to finish the job. When it was over, Tharn collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily. Leo immediately pressed his hands against the Draconid's wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "You should run," Tharn said, his voice weak. "I am not worth dying for, human." "Everyone is worth saving," Leo replied, pressing harder despite the blood covering his hands. Tharn looked at him with something new in his eyes. Not contempt. Not skepticism. Respect. Medical teams arrived and took over. As they worked on Tharn and Mara, the Draconid commander kept his eyes on Leo. "You risked your life," Tharn said. "For me. For students you barely know. For a dragon who is not even your blood." "She is my family," Leo said simply. "And so are they." Tharn was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he extended one massive clawed hand. "You have proven yourself, Leo Bennett. You have the heart of a guardian. The courage of a warrior. The bond between you and Ash is real and worthy." Leo took the offered hand, his small human fingers disappearing in Tharn's grip. "The Draconid Council will recognize your bond," Tharn continued. "You are hereby declared Ash's guardian. Her bonded. Her family. For as long as you both live." Tears sprang to Leo's eyes. Ash, sensing his overwhelming emotion, climbed up and wrapped herself around his shoulders, chirping softly. "Thank you," Leo whispered. Tharn smiled, a genuine expression this time. "No, human. Thank you. You have reminded me that strength comes in many forms. And that family is not determined by species or size or lifespan. Family is determined by choice and courage and love." The Draconid commander closed his eyes, exhausted but content. Leo stood there, covered in blood and ash, with his dragon wrapped around him, and felt more complete than he ever had in his life. 5 years changed everything. Leo Bennett stood on the observation deck of the starship Guardian's Hope, watching the stars streak past as they traveled through hyperspace. He was 17 now, taller and broader than the frightened 12-year-old boy who had once found an egg behind a waste processor. His face had lost its childhood softness, replaced by the quiet confidence of someone who had faced real danger and survived. But the biggest change was not Leo himself. Behind him, taking up most of the observation deck, lay Ash. She was magnificent. Fully grown now, she measured 15 meters from nose to tail. Her silver scales had darkened to the color of storm clouds, each one the size of Leo's hand and harder than military-grade armor. Her wings, when fully extended, could span 30 meters. Her golden eyes still held that same intelligence and warmth, but now they also carried the wisdom of experience. She was not just a dragon anymore. She was a legend. "We are approaching the distress beacon coordinates," called out Mira from the ship's bridge. The shy girl from mathematics class had become their pilot and navigator, one of several former Academy students who had joined Leo and Ash in their mission. Leo walked across the deck to Ash and placed his hand on her scaled neck. The bond between them had grown stronger over the years. Now they could share thoughts and feelings with barely any effort. Sometimes Leo forgot where his mind ended and hers began. "Ready for another one?" he asked aloud, though he did not need to speak for her to understand. Ash's voice resonated in his mind, warm and steady like a heartbeat. It was not words exactly, but concepts and emotions that Leo's brain translated into language. "Always ready, brother. Another child needs us." Brother. That was what they called each other now. Not owner and pet. Not even guardian and dragon. Brothers. Family. The Guardian's Hope dropped out of hyperspace near a small asteroid field. Sensors immediately picked up the beacon, a weak signal coming from a drifting escape pod. "Life signs?" Leo asked, moving to the bridge. Grawl, now their chief engineer, studied his screens with all 4 arms working different controls. "Faint but present. One being juvenile. Species unknown. The pod's life support is failing fast." "How long?" Leo asked. 20 minutes. Maybe less." "Ash, we're going out," Leo said. The dragon was already moving toward the airlock. Over the years they had done this dozens of times. The routine was familiar, but it never became ordinary. Every rescue mattered. Every life saved was a promise kept. Leo sealed himself into his environmental suit while Ash waited in the larger cargo airlock. She did not need a suit. Draconids could survive in the vacuum of space for limited periods, their armored scales and unique biology protecting them from the worst of it. The airlock opened and they launched into the void. Ash's powerful wings were useless in the vacuum, but she had learned to use controlled bursts of flame from her mouth to maneuver. Leo held onto the harness attached to her back, his magnetic boots locked to her scales. They moved as one being, perfectly synchronized through their bond. The escape pod tumbled slowly through space, its hull scarred and blackened. Something had attacked the ship it came from. Pirates maybe. Or raiders. The galaxy was still a dangerous place despite the treaties and peace accords. Ash positioned herself next to the pod while Leo worked the manual release. The hatch was jammed, damaged by whatever had destroyed the main vessel. He pulled tools from his belt and began cutting through the seal. Inside he could see movement. Small. Desperate. Almost there, he muttered, working faster. The seal broke. The hatch swung open. Inside the pod, huddled in the corner, was a creature Leo had never seen before. It looked almost like a large insect, but with 6 legs and translucent wings folded against its body. Its compound eyes were dim, fading. It was dying. Leo did not hesitate. He reached in and carefully lifted the creature, cradling it against his chest. It was so light, so fragile. "I have got you," Leo whispered, even though he knew it probably could not understand him. "You are safe now." They returned to the Guardian's Hope quickly. The medical bay was ready, staffed by Dr. Senna, a Trilaxian physician who specialized in xenobiology. She took the creature from Leo and immediately began treatment. Leo watched through the observation window as Dr. Senna worked. The creature was so small, so helpless. Just like Ash had been once. "Will it survive?" Grawl asked, standing beside Leo. "I do not know," Leo admitted. "But we will do everything we can." Ash's presence filled his mind with warmth and reassurance. "We have saved many, brother. We will save this one too." Hours passed. Leo refused to leave the medical bay. He had been present for every rescue, every recovery. He made sure each creature they saved knew they were not alone. Finally, Dr. Senna emerged from the treatment room, her antennae drooping with exhaustion but also satisfaction. "The child will live," she announced. "It was close, but its species is remarkably resilient." Relief flooded through Leo. "What species is it?" "Zytherian," Dr. Senna said. "Very rare. I have only read about them in medical texts. They are from the far edge of the Andromeda sector. I have no idea how this child ended up out here." "Another orphan," Leo said quietly. "Another survivor," Ash's voice corrected in his mind. "Like us." Over the next few days, the Zytherian child recovered. Its name, they learned through translation software, was something that sounded like a soft chiming. Leo called it Belle for simplicity. Belle was terrified at first, but Leo knew how to help. He had learned from experience. He stayed close, spoke softly, showed patience. Ash would lie nearby, her massive form somehow comforting rather than frightening. Slowly Belle began to trust. On the 3rd day, Belle climbed onto Leo's shoulder and made a gentle humming sound. It was a sound of contentment. Of feeling safe. "We found Belle's people," Mira reported from the bridge. "There is a Zytherian colony world 4 days from here. They have been searching for Belle since its family ship was attacked." Leo felt the familiar bittersweet ache. This was always the hardest part. The goodbye. But it was also the best part. Returning children to their families. Reuniting those who had been separated. Making the galaxy a little less lonely. When they arrived at the Zytherian colony world, dozens of ships came out to meet them. Belle's family was aboard one of them, their joy and gratitude transmitted across all frequencies. Leo carried Belle to the airlock himself. The Zytherian adults waiting on the other side were larger than the child but still delicate, their wings shimmering with colors Leo had no names for. "You saved our child," one of them said through the translator. "We can never repay this debt." "You do not owe me anything," Leo said, gently passing Belle over. "Just love this child. Keep them safe. That is all the payment I need." Belle chirped one last time, a sound that seemed to say thank you, before disappearing into the embrace of its family. Leo watched them go, feeling the hollow space that always appeared when a rescue ended. Ash's presence filled that space, warm and constant. "Another successful mission," Grawl said, placing one of his 4 hands on Leo's shoulder. Leo nodded. How many is that now? 47 rescues, Mira called from the bridge. 47 children returned to their families or found new homes. 47 lives saved. 47. And each one mattered. The Guardians' hope turned back toward open space. They had offers waiting. Governments wanted to hire them. Corporations wanted to fund them. Universities wanted to study them. But Leo had refused all of it. This work was not for profit or fame. It was for the simple reason that someone needed to do it. Because Leo remembered what it felt like to be alone. And Ash remembered what it felt like to be abandoned. Together they made sure other children never had to feel that way. New distress beacon detected, the ship's computer announced. Origin, unknown. Distance, 6 light years. Transmitting coordinates now. Leo looked at the data on the screen. Another call for help. Another child in danger. Another chance to make a difference. He felt Ash's mind touch his, a question forming between them. Ready, brother? Leo walked to the observation deck where Ash waited. He pressed his forehead against her scaled snout, their bond singing with shared purpose and unbreakable connection. Outside the windows the stars waited. Infinite and beautiful and full of possibilities. Somewhere out there someone needed them. A child lost in the darkness, hoping for rescue. Hoping for family. And Leo and Ash would find them. Just like they had found each other all those years ago. Always, Leo said, smiling. Ash's wings spread wide, catching the light from a nearby star. Her golden eyes gleamed with determination and love. The Guardian's hope turned toward the beacon and jumped to hyperspace. The galaxy was vast. Full of danger and loneliness and fear. But it was also full of hope. And second chances. And bonds that transcended species and size and all the differences that should have mattered but somehow did not. Because in the end, family was not about biology. It was about choice. About standing beside someone when the universe tried to tear you apart. About refusing to let go even when letting go seemed easier. Leo had learned that lesson as a frightened 12-year-old boy holding a cold egg. Now, as a young man with a dragon at his side and a mission in his heart, he lived that lesson every single day. And he would continue living it for as long as the stars kept calling. For as long as children needed saving. For as long as Ash's voice whispered in his mind, "Ready, brother?" And his heart answered, "Always."